0 lead comes from Scarlett, not dropping a single series in that playoff bracket, so she does start up 1-0. No, you did not miss game number 1. That's out there for the you and the newer viewers to the stream and also the YouTube audience.
Hells yeah. And so we are loaded in, and in the top left-hand side of the map, the player for Ting, it's Neeb. 3-time champ.
Down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, the Red Zerg player, one of the old-school foreign hopes of the North American scene, the Canadian Queen of Blades. She is Shopify Rebellion's Scarlett.
I never noticed this before on this map, but behind the main of Scarlett, there seems to be some, what do you call that? Like a greenhouse, I guess? You know, like where they grow plants.
Scarlett's
cool.
main is a greenhouse,
like in the airspace. Like there's plants growing. Looks like maybe damn, what are those called?
I'm setting myself to your vision. You're gonna have to show us
here.
Down in the far bottom right.
You see those plants growing in the.
You know what's funny is that the viewers probably couldn't see it anyways because even Scarlett's camera is there.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And there's like an Ewok working on them too. Right there. You see him?
I see.
No, he's being covered. There's an Ewok on the top one. I mean, as the game progresses, of course, nothing too eventful. I'm keeping tabs on what's going on. He's dancing. You see him?
Yeah, he's dancing.
Yeah.
That's hardly working right now.
Yeah, hardly working at the moment. Yeah, it is what it is. Of course, the game, nothing too special has happened. Thank you very much, Niall, for the visual aids there. A wonderful observer, of course. This entire DreamHack winter.
Keeping up with crazy matches like, Cyril versus Clem and the many other insane matches that just have action literally everywhere on the map. And somehow he's able to have the APM and that mini-map awareness to watch and catch almost all of it. So thank you so much, Niall.
Absolutely insane. Great job from Niall.
Okay.
Ooh,
well,
talk to me.
In a PvZ, the current era, it's very, very common that we see a lot of the Stargate openings and everything. Neeb also pretty strong with some of those, but we have been seeing, I feel like, more and more Protoss players finding a bit of success with like going back into the Twilight stuff. And we do see a Twilight opening over here from Neeb. No Stargate, not even like an opening Oracle or anything. Just straight up going into that Twilight Council, the Robos. I am interested to see where his game plan is going to go from here.
Yes, DT is not off the question here, as Neeb was one of the first players to actually drop Dark Shrines and merge them into Archons later on with a Warp Prism, right? Like that was one of the builds that he popularized back in the day, and that was a staple of the matchup for a long time. We haven't seen it for a while, and it won't be so this time around as Glaives get started from the Twilight Council.
Yep. First Adept makes its way forward to the Shade and just gonna keep an eye out on things. Scarlett is a very, very tricky player who absolutely is the kind of person who would be like, yes, I'm just gonna 2-base all in you right here. Go for all kinds of shenanigans. So even just confirming, yes, there is in fact drones mining at the natural is actually an important scout against someone like Scarlett. But yeah, for now, Scarlett is going to be a bit in the dark about this. And one of the key things we want to look out for is how many gateways are dropped. So far, it is going up to 4, which is a slightly more committed version of this. Like, you do need to get something done with this.
Yeah, and Scarlett is well aware that there's 3 at least, right? So Neeb not really needing to reveal necessarily the 3rd gateway at the front, but he will. And he will also reveal that it is Adept. Scarlett already has a read on this. She already started her Roach War, and in fact, it's nearly done already. And this timing usually hits around 420 here. So that is exactly the timing that we see Neeb, and we're gonna see a warp in from those 4 gateways to make those 4 Adepts into 8. As Glaives will finish, he will shade on forward. Scarlett with the DRG response will potentially have enough circlings to chase those Adepts onto the ramp and then defend with Roaches. Does she have enough links? However, it's difficult to say, but it will be enough for the time being to scare Neeb off.
It is important to note that Scarlett is reacting this pretty heavily, right? She's sitting on just the 44 workers. So in a sense, with Neeb still he never stopped probing behind all of this. He is already getting some of the transitions set up in terms of like getting his economy and everything going. Scarlett made so many units that she has to make sure she doesn't really lose a whole lot or almost anything over here. She's finally going back into drones now. but she can't afford to take much damage from these Adepts.
Yeah, Neeb is now starting a Forge, continuing on production. There was 2 more Adepts warped in, but these Adepts are not going to find any damage. And now Scarlett, identifying I have held, fires up to 12 workers. The 9 will pop up a little bit faster, the next 3 soon thereafter. And also drops an extra 3 gases as well as an Evo chamber. So now I think Scarlett has to be looking into potentially going into a quicker lair, maybe a Spire or something like that to deal with the Warp Prism as the game unfolds.
Yeah, that Prism is pretty important, by the way, because otherwise, if you just look at the armies and stuff, it's like a bunch of Adepts versus a bunch of Roaches. Neeb kind of needs a little bit more time bot to actually be able to successfully defend against, you know, a massive flood of units or something. So just the fact that the Prism is here is what is able to also make sure that Scarlett doesn't just move across the map having flooded out instead of all those drones if she just made a bunch of Roaches or something to cancel the third. So Neeb should be able to stay active with that Prism, make sure he doesn't lose it while he gets up out of his tech behind it.
Definitely. Scarlett also with a little bit of a difference in approach to most players. Didn't mind her gases until now. She was working off of 1 gas for a very long time, so very link heavy with not the potential to make too many Roaches. And that means also that her lair was delayed enough that she chooses to account for the potential follow-up of Dark Templars by dropping a few spores on her side of things. But also being able to kind of redevelop her economy very, very quickly by having that extra mineral income. So she is already up to those 68 workers, and she has been up to those for a little while here. So she is looking pretty good here on defense, and as far as economy is concerned, tech lagging a little bit behind, but Neeb is not too tech heavy either.
Yeah, Neeb has actually been investing into +1 weapons and the Blink Stalker upgrade. And funny enough, the Warp Prism has been pretty segregated from this army that's been maneuvering around the map. He's going to hallucinate Phoenix, send it forward. I'm really wondering if he wants to actually push on further. He's got 6 gateways, and that Prism could warp in some reinforcements, but...
Big run by.
Ooh,
this is actually huge. Oh, very good warpins from Neeb, however. If those links get in between the minerals and where the Stalkers are right now, all of those probes are in grave danger. Instead, the links are looking for the shield battery and will find them, forcing the Stalkers to reveal their blink and blink in between those minerals to shield themselves, as the rest of the army of Neeb is gonna come here to defend. Scarlett will be pushed back, not just that, but trapped actually by those force fields. That means a lot of Zerglings falling, a couple of Stalkers and 3 probes. Scarlett can't be too happy. At the same time, I think that this was kind of a needed victory of a Neeb that didn't manage to find any damage earned.
Yeah, absolutely. Neeb's going to feel really good about those pickups. But at the same time, I mean, it did also force them all the way back. So that +1 Blink Stalker kind of timing, where not necessarily he was looking to try and end the game or just, you know, do devastating amounts of damage and really commit to a big attack. But he was looking to maybe put on a little bit more pressure, pulls them all the way back home with that Ling run by. So Scarlett can at least feel like she got a lot of breathing room and is able to get up some of her additional tech that you're talking about behind this. Baneling Speed going to be finishing up her +1 melee attack is going to be starting on up. So it is kind of now what she's able to do with that before things like Disruptors start popping out in large numbers.
Yes, indeed. There is now the Templar Archives going down on the side of Neeb as well to look for further transitions. Scarlett morphing a lot of those Banelings aggressively, potentially looking for an opening here to end the game right here, right now. Will she be able to do exactly that? She would be almost happy if Neeb comes to defend this base here, so she's not actually going to overcommit. The Disruptor shot only finding a unit or 2 there. And Scarlett actually going with a bunch of Banelings, but very, very nice SimCity. And now Blink backwards from Neeb. At the same time, the Banelings looking to collapse with the sentries, but it's perfect force shields in the last second from Neeb, plus a very timely Disruptor shot to get rid of a lot of those Banelings. Still Scarlett with a massive force here, but she is pretty all in. She really needs to make something happen. At 183 supply, however, Ravi, it's looking kind of decent. If she can bring the rest of her army here, it's mostly Zerglings in production, as that is going to be the unit that is fastest to reinforce, and you can always count on Scarlett to be very consistent and thinking forward about what to do. This all-in still looking extremely strong.
Yeah, and remember, there's not that many reinforcements coming out over here for Neeb. He's got the 2 Colossus, but they're all by themselves. Oh no, a disaster. These Colossus could have contributed so much to the fight. GG gets called, Neeb taps out, and Scarlett takes game number 1, which means it's a 2-0 lead in her favor now.
Yeah, and a really, really clean game from her. I didn't expect that it would be Neeb to bring aggression. No less kind of aggression that's been mostly figured out, right? It's kind of like maybe he thinks that Scarlett's response isn't up to par with the best or something. I don't know what makes him say, I'm gonna go for the glaives. Of course, it's not a terrible build by any means, but the longer a build stays in StarCraft and the more responses come out against it and the more players feel comfortable against it, it becomes very difficult to kind of find damage that you're looking for. So Neeb with a disadvantage to start there, and Scarlett capitalizing.
Yeah, might have been a little bit of combination of it was Scarlett's map choice and stuff, the map that maybe he feels like he has the lowest chance on. It's also just, I know on a build that has frustrated Scarlett in the past and stuff. So I don't actually hate the idea of throwing out glaives just because, you know, it's like if you do that, if you maybe pick up like a cheap victory on map number 1 where your opponent's like getting their head a little bit, it's like, yeah, like stole a map off of you with like that glaive type of timing that you hate so much. Like things like that, I don't mind as much. But I definitely am with you that Scarlett had a super duper solid defense. Like she cut drones very early on after identifying everything, because Neeb didn't really make an attempt to hide it either. I think that was a big part of it, right? You were pointing out just all 3 of the gateways basically in the front. There was only the extra 4th gateway in the back, but Scarlett just respected it equally anyways.
Yeah, a little bit maybe too comfortable of an area for Neeb, right? Like he just goes for a very standard opening. Maybe he potentially anticipates that Scarlett is likely to go for a queen walk no matter what or something like that on that map. And all of a sudden, Scarlett does like to be very link heavy with those queen walks. So maybe then the adepts come in handy on defense or can delay the queen walk enough. But this time around, we saw Scarlett say, okay, that was a perfect hold. I'm gonna go up to my 69 workers extremely fast. Forgo tech for the most part in favor of that economy, which is again not necessarily the most common transition there. Instead of getting, you know, like an overseer quickly for DTs or aspire quickly for the war prism, she just gets a massive amount of workers, and that is what enables her to hit such a strong timing when she is or decides to get maxed as fast as possible. So very, very strong stuff from Scarlett, but Neeb is going to be looking to recover here as he spawns in the bottom right hand side of the map already with a probe out to block the hatch of Scarlett. Poor thing, of course.
And up in the top left, we have our red Zerg player from the Shopify Rebellion setting up 2-0 in this best of 7. She is Scarlett. Neeb going for the good old hatchery block. The drone doesn't, I don't even think it caught vision of the probe. It's just heading to the 3rd. Scarlett just knows, like, yeah, you're probably gonna go ahead and go for that hatch block. Like I'm just gonna go straight to the 3rd. I'm not even gonna play the games with it. Huh?
Yeah, but actually she is gonna end up playing some of those games as Neeb goes up the ramp. The overlord of Scarlett is what gives her the heads up that the probe has moved, and she decides to reposition her 3rd at the expense of making it a little bit later. And I already love this game.
Proxy hatch, Cass, I think you are the expert on proxy hatches and everything, so interested to see. So what, I feel like there's a lot of responses that we see from different players and stuff, obviously Chronoboosting out the Zealot and everything. Is this a situation that you think like probe pulls and stuff are really important, or is it just you can kind of patiently play this out and get the Zealot out and deal with it?
I'll tell you who's a real expert in proxy hatches. It's got to be Neeb at this point. I mean, I've tried to make stuff like this work against him, and it's always, for the most part, falling short. So whatever he does is probably pretty good here, as he's getting a second Zealot, not really bothering with the probe pulls. I think that this is really good because it's going to make it so that Scarlett has to make a very difficult choice between canceling that hatchery right before it finishes or letting it finish and then die quickly thereafter, right? Whereas Neeb is going for a response that he's going to be pumping out enough units that as soon as this hatchery dies, he's not going to be floating money, and instead he's going to be able to move across the map potentially with 2 Zealots and an Adept. So I think Scarlett has to cancel this hatchery at this point or lose the resources invested, and she will end up doing exactly that. Now, dragging the Zealots along to chase the drone is actually rather brilliant for Scarlett because Neeb wants to move out as soon as possible with the Zealots. That's exactly what he does, and he leaves the Adept to clean off the drone instead. So now on the other side, Scarlett will be forced to make units, whereas this was otherwise an economic opening that was delaying or denying the Nexus of Neeb for a while there. So,
yeah. Neeb actually goes for the Stargate before he even throws up the Nexus there. So, I mean, it's a small delay, but it is a little bit of an extra delay on that Nexus timing, which is normally you just want to get down as fast as possible. As soon as that drone is gone, you want to throw that down. But Neeb is going to have a little bit of extra firepower over here very shortly as the Adept is going to poke on forward. The Zealots will be here. And I think that this attack should be kind of pushed back before anything major happens. But Neeb is going to be able to maybe occupy these queens a little bit. In an ideal world, like imagine a world where you actually get to kill or something on one of these queens with the Zealots or something. Then the Oracle comes in. There's less defenses than Scarlett was maybe hoping for.
Yeah. And that is what both players have to be very cognizant of. That's why Scarlett is quick to 2 more queens and to the defense before making anything like a third or anything like that a priority, right? So she is going to be droning up now as Neeb is forced to retreat. But this was already pretty good for Neeb. If we look at the drone versus probe count, it's 30 to 30. So even though Neeb was slowed down by the opener of Scarlett, Scarlett was also slowed down, and Neeb did not give away those units. He just forced out the units that Scarlett needed to get. However, a little bit of a punish here onto the Zealots would be really nice for the Queen of Blades to find, and that's exactly what she's gonna do. So, all in all, I mean, that ends up working out pretty well for her as she gets the speed coming handy there from those links that would otherwise have been kind of useless on her side of the map. The Oracle one shot away from dying Ravs. And yeah, I mean, not too much damage found from Neeb either, right? This Oracle is here, but the links of Scarlett still are gonna have some utility in denying or delaying this third base as the Oracle pops his own beam in order to make that happen. But Scarlett finds the probe regardless, and now looking to reach into the natural main or the natural base of a well-defended Neeb.
Yeah, solid attack there from Scarlett. Even just knows the exact timing of the next probe to come on forward. Doesn't get the plant down. And unfortunately, because Neeb had actually activated the Pulsar Beam just to kill one of the links. Saw that they were moving away and deactivated it. If he had actually just left it active, probably could have actually kept those Zerglings from going after the probe again, or at least cost them many more of their lives. So now Neeb is just super annoyed with these links. This is going after them with the Oracles.
Yeah, that was a really cool move that just happened now from the Oracles to kind of escort that one Adept, because Scarlett should, or more often than not, would pick off that Adept if the Oracles don't pull back. So both players kind of anticipating what the best move from each other is and not even bothering with the moves as they respect each other enough to know that they will be accounted for. Now it's 3 Oracles. The Spore is going to come in super handy here from Scarlett, as those 3 Oracles cannot get involved and kill links while the Spore fires at them, especially not with that many queens here. Scarlett making additional Zerglings, so the Shades will be rendered ineffective from this point on, and the game will kind of stabilize. Okay.
Yeah, Neeb just keeping an eye out on things, throws out on the Revelation, but the Lair gets started up in vision range of that Revelation, so Scarlett has no fear about showing Neeb kind of where she's at with the tech-wise. But speaking of which, I mean, all things considered, it's been a kind of a funky game, but Neeb getting up a robotics bay before the Lair is done is a pretty funny sight to see.
Yeah, that is pretty funny indeed. A lot of these Oracles will be turned on to kill one of the queens, and a few transiting links now will aid in the cancel of this 4th base. That is important. No actual cancel there from Scarlett, so that is going to net Neeb a small advantage. At the same time, Shades into the natural will net Neeb just 5 workers, as the last worker also goes down. And that's not too bad at all for 2 Adepts at this point in time.
Yeah, no kidding. Neeb's got to be pretty happy with how a lot of this game has been going, despite the kind of weird opening there, throwing maybe a lot of pros players off from their normal game plan and everything. But now we got Disruptors coming on out, a Templar Archives is being added on, Charge is coming on out, the Gateway Flood is coming forward. And all at the end of the day, Scarlett is, I feel like, around the time that all of these big power tools coming out for Neeb are going to be landing on the field, Scarlett's just barely going to be finishing up her, her Roach speed and maybe like +1 missile attacks. She's not going to have a whole lot outside of just Roaches and Links to deal with a lot of these power units.
Yeah, and that is kind of the cool thing about that build order. So I'm really glad that you bring it up, Ravi, because while it may seem that Scarlett doesn't find anything with the hatchery, you basically never find anything with the hatchery. It's just about making the game weird. It's because the hatchery won't set you far behind. So in Scarlett actually finding those Zealots on the retreat, I think that she put herself in a fine position. But since then, it's been all Neeb. And otherwise, it's kind of a wash, but it's a different game, right? So it's something like making a statement of saying, I am better in Chaos, or I want this game to be weird, or I want you to be second-guessing yourself, your timings. You're not going to be able to rely on that clock. this is a different game. And that's like, whoa. This is a little bit too different, perhaps, as those units get stuck on attacking the rocks a little bit too long. One of those roaches will get punished by the oracles. And on the retreat, Scarlett will take shelter in her many Morphing Ravagers and Queens.
Yeah, a lot of those queens there to try and respread the large amounts of creep that have been cleaned up. And actually, I've got to say, you know, as we see the queen walk beginning over here, a very, very committed attack from Scarlett. All of the creep tumors that those oracles have been killing really do actually slow down this push. Imagine if the creep was a bit further forward and Scarlett was already here. Now Neeb gets time to get up more disruptors and get more units up.
Yeah, but will that be enough? Scarlett already breaking those rocks, making it so that she has a clear entry here from every which angle. This is a very wide open space, especially after those rocks have been taken down. The disruptor shot barely whiffs. That means there's no disruptor shots available, and Scarlett is swarming Neeb from every angle right now. Also distracted at the third base of Neeb that forced some warpins back with just a few roaches that are still stabilizing or stable there at the third base, doing damage to Neeb. So Scarlett is in a fantastic position by the looks of it, but if Neeb can stabilize just barely, that will be enough. This disruptor shot has a lot of a say in the matter as it takes down 4 crucial units, and with the reinforcements, it looks like Neeb will be able to push that back, but not before the Nexus falls. Ravi, what a minute of gameplay this was.
Absolutely nuts. And remember that this queen walk was accompanied with 75 workers. Scarlett, of course, was making, I guess, actually a lot of units behind all this. Is still making a lot of units behind this. So she's down to 0 queens right now. That's a bit of an awkward spot. A couple of queens are going to be popping shortly. And she does have a 4th base. So it's not necessarily the full all-in position that a lot of queen walks often kind of get left with if you don't make the attack a success. Was killing the 4th base enough there, Cats?
Yes, I like her position, to be honest. The creep spread has been good. She is now transitioning. Her tech is not super far behind given the circumstances and given that she has reset Neeb. It's still not game over by any means. Never is when there is disruptors out in the field in large numbers. And Neeb is still looking for advantages that he can find with those oracles. Target firing now. The 3rd Ravager might go down. Each one of those, I mean, those 3 Ravagers may not seem like that, but that's 600 resources. If we look at the army value, that's not an irrelevant number to kill with those 3 oracles. So now Neeb on the counter offense. He will at least be clearing some creep, or trying to. The sentries will provide some safe haven should he choose to retreat. And the disruptors provide the potential for him to outright win or take an advantage. So Scarlett has to be really careful. She is fighting on creep. She is having a big concave here, Ravi. And the
a couple of big disruptor hits do land on that south side of the roaches, but the force field's not quite perfect. Let a lot of units through. Is this going to be a bad engagement for Scarlett, though? She is moving through those choke points. Disruptors threatening to move forward, and the Revelation gets tossed back as it looks like both these players will disengage. But definitely some tense fights there. I think that if the fights are even, though, right now, Scarlett is the one that is actually getting up a lot of transition points, though. She is the one that has her lurker den done. She's got her hive tech on the way. So I think that she's fine with just kind of delaying and buying time.
What a void ray. I mean, this void ray says, you shall not pass to all of those roaches, and they shall not indeed. They will pull back instead and look to kind of collapse onto the army of Neeb here. Oh, the disruptor shot was actually quite juicy. The rest of the roaches will be trapped potentially on Neeb's side of the map. So Neeb or Scarlett has to be really careful on the retreat and will try to allow for those roaches to escape as she flanks with the rest of her army here. Neeb looking to chase those down, but Scarlett will find the pathway to get them home, or not, as Neeb will actually have reinforcements here on this base as well. Neeb trying to use the choke to his advantage with those disruptor shots. Will find a couple of roaches, now looking to remain stable on this base and potentially punish Scarlett here. This is looking pretty good for Neeb, and GG all of a sudden. What a game that was, Ravi.
Yeah, the Prism being able to sneak into that other base for Scarlett. And you were talking about the reinforcements just coming in so clutch. After that, it's no longer a situation where Neeb is trying to push into Scarlett's creep and try and find an angle. He was actually able to retreat back and end up at one of Scarlett's bases. Once you are in a position that you want to attack as like the Protoss player with disruptors, it's a lot easier. It's so much harder to push forward with disruptors because you can zone a little bit forward and then you're kind of like, but now I need to back up a little bit or something. If you're up on the high ground already and you're defending your opponent's base effectively, like the disruptors are zoning your opponent out. Your opponent is the one that has to actually retreat in that position.
Yeah, and it all starts, at least the final moments of that game, with Scarlett going into Neeb's third, seeing that there's a Void Ray, choosing to retreat. That was a sizable amount of army that then Neeb says, I'm going to trap that army on my side of the map. And at that point, Scarlett had her hive on the way, right? Like Vipers are going to be crucial for those disruptors when they are out. She had her lurker then on the way. She already had obviously the Hydra then in order to have that lurker then transition coming. So she was getting set up for a transition, but she wasn't quite there yet. So Neeb hitting kind of a power spike and trapping a sizable portion of the army of Scarlett on his side of the map, manages to capitalize. Scarlett tries to save that army by bringing the rest of her army forward, which is never what she wanted to do, right? Fighting in chokes, fighting now to protect that base rather than just being fanned out and perhaps waiting for her tech to kick in, which I think might have been a little bit wiser, but huge props from Neeb to capitalizing. Again, that Void Ray really ruined all of Scarlett's plans, I think.
The one Void Ray, man. I mean, just the utility you get from that on the defense is actually so nice. It's a little bit reminiscent to me of having like DTs on the defense, where it's like, this is a unit that will do a lot of damage to you and you can't kill, like, if you're attacking me unless you really commit to something. So really like how that played out for this young lad down here on the bottom left-hand side of Blackburn. Our blue Protoss player from Ting, he is Neeb.
And in the bottom right-hand side of the map, for the Shopify Rebellion, it's Scarlett.
Nice that Neeb was finally able to put one on the board. Remember, this is a best of 7, so there's still a little bit of leeway left over, even with Scarlett leading up 2-1. But this is hitting that point where you really don't want to have to give up an extra game, because, yeah, I mean, this is absolutely the kind of thing that's scary about Scarlett, right? Is that she'll do things like this, and if you want to make sure you can start to play a bit of catch up in that series score so that you can handle these kind of shenanigans that Scarlett loves throwing out.
I love it, because Neeb's gonna scout this. Scarlett did something similar against Astraea in a map where she, in her interview, felt like Astraea could have moved out with a few zealots, kind of similar to what we saw Neeb forced to do in the previous map, and potentially punish from the short rush distance that there is to travel on Beckett, right? But this time around, Scarlett opening this way, potentially most likely just to protect her gold, but always with the option to trick Neeb into thinking that this is bigger aggression than it is. And Scarlett is very capable to apply a lot of pressure and aggression off of this type of opener. So now Neeb will check the natural, check the third, see that they're not there, and surely he will go on to the gold to make sure that there is something going on. He will head north. He will confirm. But very quick link speed of Scarlett will make it very difficult for Neeb to punish it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be extremely surprised if Neeb did not go to the gold. This is I think one of the more obvious things is, of course, you'll see a lot of drones transferring just since those gold minerals yields results a lot faster. So you want to saturate that up ASAP. Scarlett's going to have all those drones quickly popping up over there. Now, there is a downside to this gold base besides just the distance between your main and the gold. Behind those minerals has definitely been a vulnerable point for a lot of players to try and, defend. So I like that Neeb has already been able to sneak out that first adept. You're talking about the speedlings and stuff, but the speedlings have to be both out on the map and also in place to help defend. If Scarlett's poking around with her Zerglings on Neeb's side of the map, well, those drones might be a bit more vulnerable.
They will be indeed. They have to stop mining right now, which is super painful. That's the majority of the army, the resources that Scarlett could be mining right now. That is the majority of her workers at that gold base. But now she has the links getting to position. She could have had links here earlier, of course, not without the speed, but would have bought enough time that the drones did not need to evacuate it. Now with speed, she will be able to punish potentially this adept. Should be able to catch it on the way back potentially, as it's gonna be a little bit of a long way there. It's so close, it's so low, but I feel like Scarlett maybe dropped the ball a little bit. I'm not sure if she was chasing the entire time. The adept will actually find safe haven in his own natural base, or her own natural base, and I mean, the game will continue on, but I would say Neeb found kind of a strong early game to start.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't underestimate even just the time that Neeb was able to force drones to be pulled off of mining on that gold. Because the gold is all about just, you need to immediately recuperate the losses of the long drone transfer time. And of course, also the earlier pool, right? That Neeb didn't delay his Nexus or his economy or anything much for the early pool. He just kind of chugged along and was like, yeah, I know what you're doing. I'm going to just get up my Nexus right after my gateway. I'm going to get up my Adepts and do a little harassment and stuff. And kind of got away without really any of his, his aggressive decisions being punished.
Yeah, and I love everything that he has been doing as far as approach to the game is concerned, right? The Adepts are going to be the most mobile unit on the ground that he can get from those gateways. The Oracles are air units, so extremely fast, and being able to just move from side to side out on the map is one of the best ways to try to punish this sort of opening from Scarlett, right? Because Neeb opened with some of the more mobile sets of units, both on ground and air. He is going to be able to potentially take advantage of how far apart the bases are from Scarlett. So really, really cool game plan here. He even goes up to 3 Oracles altogether. And yeah, now moving through the middle of the map with the Adepts. So Scarlett has to be really careful on 2 different fronts, and she doesn't have any defenses on her natural base, but the Lynx kind of catch the Adepts. Question mark, who catches who here? Ravi, this is getting really scary for Scarlett.
I feel like Neeb is actually catching Scarlett a little bit over here, because at this point, I feel like Scarlett, she wished that these Lings were just able to be drones, because right now she's down in the worker count against a Protoss player. Even with the gold base, which does make up for a bit of that, Neeb is still taking a third base behind all this. He's also getting additional kills, even just being able to recall out of here alive while all the roaches were just forced out. Neeb just forced a bunch of army supply in a situation where Scarlett was already down 14 workers. And now what is Scarlett going to do? I feel like she has to queen pull. I don't even think this is a surprise to Neeb.
Yeah, not at all. And I feel like that's exactly why we see Neeb recall. I think most games you shade in and you kill a bunch of drones and you're pretty happy. But Neeb says, I need every unit on defense right now. Win condition is not the economy. I'm already well ahead on that front. He scouted the natural of Scarlett. He knows that there isn't any drones there to be found. He knows that the main isn't oversaturated or anything like that. So recalls right away and prepares for a massive defense. Here comes the big queen push. These are pretty deadly from the Queen of Blades. In particular, when she has a gold expansion to work with, her army supply is considerably higher than Neeb's for the time being. But like you said, stasis traps and all sorts of static defense and trickery could work well for the Thundershaft.
Yeah, no stasis is coming down or anything just yet. I mean, remember, there's no way to set off the stasis unless you just sacrifice to some Zerglings, but even then they can act as almost force fields. And speaking of force fields, some of those force fields are going to be able to try and buy a little bit of time. The Ravagers knocking them down as fast as possible, but Neeb can even fall further back into the safety of these shield batteries and even further back into the shield batteries that can be overcharged over here. This is, I mean, it's making some progress over here for Scarlett, but is it actually going to be enough? I feel like it's just way too slow.
Yeah, Scarlett with good focus fire as the Oracles try to connect onto the rest of her army. It's looking like it's going to be extremely close regardless. 2 Immortals still remaining. The circuit reinforcements are pouring on through. And now the probes having to be pulled from Neeb, but that might just do it. I mean, it's super close here, Ravi. The Queens are focus firing whatever they can. The shield batteries are almost out of energy. Those Immortals are extremely important. There are no sentries here. 4 shields. And Neeb is warping in additional units. They're in the back. It's going to be Stalkers. It looks like it might be barely enough for the American Protoss as the rest of the Bios actually land onto 1 Immortal, further complicating things, but I think it's not going to be enough for Scarlett. Now dodging the Bios is Neeb. Ravi, I think he's done.
Yeah, even with all the probes being taken out of there, Neeb is still well ahead in worker count. GG, Neeb, a solid, I mean, I would actually say it's not just a solid defense there, it's the solid offense that forced Scarlett to be in this situation where she had to queen pull. There were no other options on the table for her.
Yeah, it was so difficult because, again, you have to defend that gold. The first Adept already seemed to do a lot, right? And then just with the Oracle follow-up, forcing Scarlett to want to be at 2 places at once where she couldn't be. You always saw there was a little bit of a bridge for those queens to help each other at the gold. That's the difficulty of playing the gold, but I love the style that Scarlett has been bringing to the table regardless. I think that this could be the way that she ends up beating Neeb, so I'd love to see her continue to try. We're going to go to a quick break, and when we get back, the rest of the finals.
We have a tied up series, ladies and gentlemen, as Neeb is able to put 2 wins on the board, compliment Scarlett's 1 map victory and 1 victory from just coming in from the upper bracket. 2-2 series score. We get ready to move into game number 5. And this is gonna, game number 4, technically, yeah. Whatever you want to call it, right? It depends on how the fact that game number 1 was actually game number 2 because of the series score. Regardless, guys, we're hopping in to a tied up series, and that is definitely something exciting to me as we start up in the top right-hand side of Beckett Industries. Holy cow. It is, of course, the blue Protoss player from Ting, Neeb.
Holy guacamole. And at the bottom left-hand side of Beckett Industries, it is the Queen of Blades, Scarlett.
I can't say the word guacamole. Caps,
Guacamole.
I didn't eat anything between EU and NA. It's so like 3:30 now. I didn't eat breakfast either. You can't do that to me.
Very cool detail here already, Ravi, on Beckett Industries for the Protoss player. Usually, like we were talking during the break, like Cert can actually go for an early pull or something like that and take advantage of how short the map is, etc., etc. But for Protoss, actually already with a slight advantage in the sense that he drops the pylon and is able to, after, with the same probe, kind of just continue on, right? A lot of the time on every other map, basically, you have to pull an extra probe if you want to block that hatchery on the low ground. On Beckett, it's so close that the same probe can accomplish the same thing. So let's see now what Neeb is going to choose to do as a follow-up. There are some options here. Scarlett was talking about how Estrella like to reinforce with Zealots on this particular map, because usually, you know, their disadvantage is just how slow they are compared to, say, Adepts or Stalkers. But Neeb is not doing that. No Zealot started here, so perhaps somewhat irrelevant.
Yeah, but I mean, it's definitely a map that, unlike many of the other maps where I think there's like strategies that can be a little bit stronger or weaker and stuff, I think you do have to play a little bit around Beckett, right? Just the speed of getting from one side of the map to the other can have a huge impact, especially in a matchup like this. So just completely, you can kind of try and just do normal strategies and everything, but there are some strategies or some tactics, I would even just say, that can be extremely strong, and you just have to be aware of. You have to, at a minimum, play at least a little bit around.
Yeah, most definitely. It's not a map that you can afford to just ignore the topology of, as Neeb is going to be opening with a Stargate. And for example, if you want to be consistent with the map and open Stargate, I think 9 times out of 10, we're thinking maybe Oracle openings from Neeb, at least from what we've seen. But on this map, a Void Ray can make a lot more sense. Tempest's not entirely out of the question, right? Like those slowing moving units or slower moving units are going to be pretty strong on a map that is small. Yeah, because less distance to travel.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the Tempest, because I feel like I've seen the Tempest approach to this matchup many times, or like a few times at least on Beckett. Cats, I've never seen it work. I know a lot of
Mana beat Raynor with it. Yeah.
Oh, actually, yeah. Sorry. You know what? It's that game has completely slipped from my mind. I know that I've seen it, but I completely forgot exactly how it looked.
It was so cool. And Tempests are also very good against Queen walks, but we're going to see the Oracle opening from Neeb. This is still obviously going to hit a second or two faster, right? So still pretty cool. And let's see what he's able to accomplish with it.
Yeah. Now, Scarlett hasn't technically seen the Stargate with her Overlord. And the Oracle also managed to evade the first Overlord. It is going to encounter another one in the kind of center over here, but Scarlett, she's already got her 2 extra queens coming forward. Just still Spore Crawlers, so that might make things a little bit harder to defend.
Yeah, no Spore here. Actually, Neeb already finding 2 drones worth of damage. Single queen is not going to be too helpful either. Already having to evacuate the mineral line and go into that gas. 2 of those drones also with green in their hands are going to go back to mining minerals just because, you know, just because of the chaos. So not a particularly strong early response here from Scarlett. Is going to net Neeb a strong early game already.
Yeah, 5 worker kills is already more than you normally ask for with that first Oracle. Much less, I mean, sometimes 5 drone kills is actually how much you want from 2 Oracles. But, being able to slow down that 3rd base, yet again, Scarlett is so good with those lings, but did end up losing a majority of them. There's only 1 ling out on the map right now, with 10 lings still coming on out. It's mostly about the queens for this little defense against the Adepts.
And that is Beckett coming into play as well, right? These Adepts are across the map so very quickly just after killing those Zerglings. that Neeb is looking to capitalize. Will kill a drone, I think, for his trouble. So Scarlett with a good response in turn. Lynx are, of course, the fastest unit to be created in the game. So they are out in time. And now Neeb will poke in, knowing what the setup is at the natural base of Scarlett. Feels confident enough to go in and continue to snipe a couple of drones. 3 will go down, and Oracle nearly falls.
Yeah, 2 Oracles getting a little bit lower on hit points there is not entirely ideal, but he gets out of there alive with all of them and gets 3 drone kills. I think that still Neeb can probably be relatively happy with how this opening has gone, just because he's kept the Oracles alive and they're still going to continue to be a threat. Sending more Adepts forward is a kind of interesting decision, since there are still a decent number of Queens and Lings out. It's going to be pretty difficult, especially with that creep spread now going forward, to get a whole lot of damage out of it. Hey, I mean, I guess settle for the 1 drone you can get.
I guess he has to, but I'm with you. As I see those Adepts run in there, I'm like, I mean, you know that there's Lings out there, you know that there's Queens out there. Very unlikely that those Adepts find much more. So maybe just scouting information is what Neeb is looking for at that point in time. Maybe just looking to see if Scarlett has roaches popping up and on the way to his side of the map, right? Like nothing else comes to mind.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. And in a sense, scouting information is probably more important on this map than almost any of the other maps, because the time between your opponent deciding that they're going to throw down a tech structure, or like you said, start flooding out roaches, and being able to actually get the attack out of your front door is shorter than any of the other maps. So you do need to just be incredibly on top of all of that kind of scouting information. The Oracle's gonna, in some ways, it's like they're trapped down there in that little dead airspace, but they also have a very nice, easy way to kind of move forward and get some additional scouting information on, whatever units are popping out, if there are a bunch of roaches moving around the map. But for now, nothing of the sort, and Neeb is going to be able to successfully get up into Disruptors yet again.
Yeah, those Oracles partied a little bit too hard. They're going to go and kind of sleep the hangover of the recovery of energy, as they are mostly drained after those maneuvers, even turning them on for no good reason towards the end there. Well, obviously, he thought that there would be a good reason, but not finding anything was Neeb. Now still coming here, not with a lot of energy again on those Oracles. So maybe one last hooray for them if they are to take a fight right now, or just looking to clear some creep perhaps. But there's an observer that overlap can roll with that. So let's see if the Adepts can contribute something. This is a little bit of an odd move out from Neeb, and he will actually be forced to recall.
It's kind of funny because, there is the forced recall over there, as the Ravagers do come in at the final perfect moment. But it was funny because at the moment that Neeb was attacking, if you take the Ravagers that had just morphed in and out of the picture, and like the roaches that were about to pop, there was only 1 Zergling out on the map at the time. There was actually just purely Queens. So it's kind of a funny move out timing, and it does force out a little bit of response there. But he gets out safely, so I can't complain too much about it.
That is true, and that's exactly what he's looking for, right? Like, Neeb's never thinking, I'm going to kill you with this move out. He's just trying to force out units from Scarlett. Does accomplish that as its goal, but not until after Scarlett's already found herself with the economy that she wants to have, right? And now Neeb is going to scout as I hear your home come in, and there's going to be a very quick hive here from Scarlett. So will Neeb attempt at a timing here?
Yeah, it's a very good question. With the Spire also coming on up, Neeb has scouted that out with the Hallucinating Phoenix, I believe. And while he was dealing with some of the units kind of threatening his stasis traps and stuff, and also funny enough, wow, I can't believe the creep is already over here. I mean, Scarlett's good at creep spread, but I mean, I think not needing as many creep tumors to get across the map also plays a bit of an impact in that. Does Neeb decide to go for a big attack before that hive and that Spire can really pay off? Or is he just going to start teching up and trying to get up the transition points?
We'll see. Scarlett trying to account for both options as she is transitioning while still dropping a little bit of static defense, but Neeb will find those spines before they are fully morphed already with the preemptive force fields as well. Being careful not to get surrounded by the Zerglings. He has already spent 2 out of 3 disruptor shots. He just recently used recall, so that's not an option. He's out of force fields as well. Scarlett could maybe look to collapse, but with these 2 Archon reinforcements and most of the army of Scarlett being Zerglings, no Baneling speed either on site, she's not going to be able to chase out of creep.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very scary army for Scarlett to deal with, but at the same time, Neeb has effectively committed himself to getting something done with this, because Greater Spire is on the way, and Neeb doesn't have any signs of really transitioning. The only thing he really has is that he's got Blink Stalkers coming up, and I guess +2 weapons, right? That can delay against very low Broodlord counts. But Scarlett's on 88 drones. She's nearly maxed out. Neeb has to get something done here because he's committed himself to getting something done here.
You're absolutely right, Ravi. Oh, this disruptor shot could have been huge, but nice last second splits from Scarlett. Will dodge 2 of those. Actually, the Banelings will find connections onto most of this army of Neeb. It's not the best army to connect onto if you are a Baneling, of course, but it's gonna be enough by the looks of it. Just dodging those disruptor shots was ever so important. Recall comes off cooldown, and Neeb will be able to finally evacuate. But not really finding perhaps the damage that he was looking for. Maybe if he could have finished this hatchery, but Scarlett preemptively goes ahead and heals her hatch.
Oh, that's actually really unfortunate. Neeb, at least if he had gotten the hatchery, he would have brought down the base count a little bit. But now it's a 5 base Zerg with Broodlord tech against a Protoss player that, sure, has a Stargate, but there's no Fleet Beacon on the way. There's no real other answers to the Broodlords outside of just, I have a lot of Stalkers that we're working in, and I have Disruptors. Even all the Archons got picked off. Cats, like, without the Archons, the Broodling counts just get out of control so quickly.
So quickly, and it doesn't feel like Neeb has much of an opening to cross the map again. Scarlett is probably at her weakest right now, and until those Broodlords finish morphing. But once they are out, Ravi, I think you're absolutely right. The lights are going to start to dim in Camp Neeb.
Well, I guess one nice thing that Neeb might have going for him is that, well, I want to say that, you know, the Broodlords are a very immobile force and everything, but then I look at the rest of Scarlett's army, and it's like the Roaches can still move around very quickly, and there's a lot of creep spread, and also it's Beckett. You don't get that much room to outmaneuver the Broodlords, unfortunately, on this map.
That is a very, very good point, actually, Ravi. Broodlord's probably one of the stronger tools that Zerg would find themselves with on Beckett. And we know Scarlett to be very consistent with her strategy. That's something that I will always compliment her for. She is an extremely smart strategist, and she is amazing at adapting. So just, I don't know that she needs to be doing this, but just applying a little bit of pressure, buying herself a little bit of time, and if she's able to evacuate, which is exactly what we're going to see, it will all be fine. How many Broodlords do we have out and on the way? 7.
That's pretty solid for the most part. I mean, oh god, we only have 12 Stalkers. Cats, like, there's only 12 Stalkers. There's every Stalker has to almost kill like one Broodlord, and I have to say it's going decently well so far, and even a lot of storms coming down on the Broodlords as a desperation attempt to try and kill things. But at the end of the day, there's way too many Broodlords still left alive, and this is a massacre. This isn't even a fight. It's a desperate situation if you're Neeb, and that is without a lot of the Roaches that were in the north, some of them trapped by a stasis trap, right? So Neeb has to be feeling pretty crappy after that, because he finds an opportunity to jump in onto the first 2 Broodlords that spawn. That would have been fantastic if he finds both of those. But then Scarlett kind of just identifies that's not many Stalkers. Banelings, again, not the best unit against Stalkers. But if Stalkers are your only problem, it's completely fine to just go center mass of those with the Banelings and lower those numbers as soon as possible. Now, Scarlett has a very strong anchor in her Broodlords, and there's no reason for her to slow down. Neeb dropping 2 Stargates, but they're not going to come in handy just yet. Scarlett does need her army nearby the Broodlords. This just consolidate, just merge your army, amalgamate, and then move with everything together, Ravi, and then it might be lights out for Neeb. Yeah, I mean, I do like that Neeb has been able to buy a little bit of time, and I almost feel like maybe the right answer is you're going to have to give up at least 1 base, right? Because the Broodlords are slow to move from base to base. They will be dominant against what Neeb has, but if Neeb can buy some time, the Fleet Beacon is finished. He can start up some Tempest soon. Yeah, and this is going to be something, I mean, this is, I think, like you're pointing out to, perhaps the best move that Neeb could have gone for, just to ignore the Broodlord force, to try to get those Tempests out or some sort of answer. Instead, Neeb is looking for more damage on the other side of the map, so spending what little money he has to try and just create chaos, and then look to stabilize later on. So not any air units have been started for the American Protoss here, as Scarlett looks to push on through with her Broodlords, now getting closer and closer to victory, perhaps, if she cannot be stopped. Stalkers are not going to cut it. A lot of those Templars have already fallen, and things are going from bad to worse for Neeb, who at least is finding some economic damage on the other side of the map. Yeah, I mean, not actually only just the economic damage, but the Zealots are starting to chip away at the Greater Spire and the Hive right now. So there's a theoretical world where if the Hive is taken out, there's only 6 Corruptors out. There's 3 Voideries being made at a time right now, Cats. Yeah, that's an excellent point, Ravi. I mean, if Scarlett isn't, and it's not on her mind, the Corruptors are not on her mind,
because of this army reinforcements from Neeb. So I mean, 3 Stargates. I don't think Scarlett expects this at all. She's trying to corner the army. She's trying to empower the Stargate. She will manage to empower one of those targets before more Void Rays come out. And now Scarlett knows. And now Scarlett knows to make more Corruptors, because that's going to be the win condition. Neeb trying to maybe continue to force a base trade by relocating his army somewhere else as perhaps a staging point for follow-up attacks. He needs chaos in order to thrive here. Scarlett, smartly, brilliantly, has kind of gone into the main of Neeb to siege his production, to stop the bleeding on that front. So both players very cognizant of what their win condition is at this stage in the game. And I actually still think that Scarlett's army is so very powerful, but Neeb is doing a wonderful job of outmaneuvering, which is one of the best things that you can do against the Broodlords.
Yeah, I do think that if Neeb had actually killed off the Roachborn, though, he could be in a much better position right now. He's bleeding off so many units because every second that goes by, Scarlett is actually reinforcing with more and more units. And that, I think, is going to be the ultimate death sentence here for Neeb, is that he is losing units. And if he was somehow still able to make some kind of trade out of all this happen, get up even just like 1 or 2 Void Rays to help deal with things and kill off the Corruptors, like, there'd maybe be some hope. But at the end of the day right now, Neeb, every second that goes by, Scarlett's ground force is being replenished, not just the Broodlords.
Yeah, Neeb choosing to actually take this fight, as there isn't too many Broodlords here. Will manage to pick off 2. I mean, that's a little bit of a victory, but there's so many more Broodlords that I don't know that the win condition for Neeb can ever be to fight and kill the army. I think that base trade was where the money was at. I am completely with you. If we look at the main of Scarlett, there is so many of those. Oh, huge storm onto a lot of Ravagers, but now with the Roach reinforcements, I think that this might be enough. Immortals, however, will have a say in the last stand, but Neeb will actually fall regardless, and Scarlett with a solid and very cool Beckett Industries victory.
Yeah, I mean, the game got very hectic there at the end. I'm still like racing in my head. I'm like, what if Neeb, as soon as that attack happened and you saw the Broodlords like threw down a Dark Shrine, or if he'd only got out 1 Void Ray and that 1 Void Ray just got killed. Imagine if he had actually let some of the other Void Rays finish off or something, and he'd been able to just like, he had been able to get up even just barely enough to deal with the Corruptors. Like, there is a world where he gradually starts killing off all those Broodlords. Scarlett can't make anymore. There's so many little things that could have gone differently, but at the end of the day, Scarlett's the one that gets to chalk up that victory and puts her at match point now in the grand finals.
Yeah, I love so many of the points that you made during that, Ravi. I mean, I think that was a brilliant analysis. The last 6 Corruptors that were left over for Scarlett, that's probably not good enough to fight the 3 Void Rays of Neeb should they pop up. And he was making 3 at a time. And that's why Scarlett is so brilliant to just go inside of the main, to empower that pylon right before one of those very crucial Void Rays pops up. And also like the brilliance of Neeb in turn to warp in units on the other side of the map instead of getting those Void Rays quicker. But that actually takes the mind of Scarlett away from the Stargate units because she wants to be producing roaches on defense then, right? So it was a very hectic end to the game. But yeah, I also love the choice for Broodlords from Scarlett. I mean, on that map, right? Like, they're slow units, but it doesn't matter too much if you don't have to move all that much. So what a cool game.
Super cool game. And I think it's fun because you were talking about this, and it's something that I think is easy to appreciate about Scarlett. She's like a very cerebral player in the sense that she thinks a lot about the game, and she's got very good game sense in general about things, right? That's the reason why she oftentimes will have like these extreme builds that seem to be leaning very much in the direction of like a super cheese or like a super macro style and everything, but like she just kind of is very good at recognizing when she's able to get away with those things, and she's very good at also picking up situations that she hasn't seen or experienced before and be like, yeah, I mean, like, I just do this because this would be strong. It's like, oh yeah, you're right a lot of the time in those situations. So it definitely favors her when she gets into weird, wacky spots like that.
Most definitely. And this entire series has played, I feel like, mostly on her wheelhouse by her terms, right? We haven't seen that ultra late game just yet. We're seeing Broodlords, but we're seeing timings with them, which is amazing from Scarlett. I think that's what she wants to continue to do. In the bottom left-hand side of the map, playing for Ting, it's Neeb. Feeling a bit blue, perhaps.
And up here at the top right-hand side of the map, the red Zerg player, the Queen of Blades, she is Shopify Rebellion's Scarlett. You know, I really like, you were talking about again, like that counterplay, harassment, and everything that Neeb was going for toward the end of that last game. And I think it was actually Showtime that I really thought of when he was playing versus Cyril yesterday. That really just showcased again, like that is something that is a big weakness of those Broodlords. They are really immobile, and Showtime was able to make games that he was even losing against Cyril look really good, just because of how he was able to constantly multi-prong harass and basically find his way back into games that looked like he was already dead in. And I feel it almost looked like maybe on another map, Neeb was beginning to be able to do that.
Yeah, it didn't look too far off. I mean, those Voyagers were really close to just ending the game, right? Like if they kill the Corruptors, like you said, there's nothing to defend against them. But also on the ground, Neeb had some really cool decisions there when Scarlett even corners most of his army towards the end of the game in his main. He recalls, and I thought that's going to be a good opportunity for him to continue to look for kind of a base trade or something like that. There were moments where Neeb could have done things like, for example, get rid of the entire main base worth of production facilities that Scarlett had off of creep that you mentioned, right? Like get rid of the Roach Warren. It was right next to the spawning pool, right next to the infestation pit as well. So Neeb could spend a little bit more time there. And while Scarlett could have easily remade those, no player is perfect. And if you're behind, sometimes you just gotta hope for mistakes. Maybe Scarlett didn't notice in time. The game was extremely chaotic. Maybe she didn't notice the pool went down when she's trying to rebuild the Roach Warren, or does not anticipate that, that she needs the infestation pit for a hive if she had already a lair. There's all sorts of things that can happen. But yeah, I mean, it was a crazy game, right? Like, and it's difficult to fault players for decisions that weren't made when so many of the decisions that were made were so great.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great way of putting it. And it's a game of chaos where we have all of the vision. We know the exact numbers of how many Corruptors Scarlett had, or how much of a ground army, and just what Scarlett was making in those larva eggs when Neeb was basically operating blind. So definitely don't want to fault the players or anything. It is just very much so the fanboy in me that's going, what if, what if, what if? But you know what? At the end of the day, Cats, we don't have to play what if with that game because we got a game in front of us. We are already opening up with double Adepts, but also we're going straight into that first Void Ray again, just skipping the Oracle for now.
Yeah, and to be fair, Ravi, what if is our job, kind of. So like I'm not trying to criticize you for pointing out things that to me are enlightening in conversation with you. So thank you. And we see here that the Adepts are going to try to shade into the main. We'll find their way there. Already the Links of Scarlet with speed, ready to answer. Neeb may be able to pick off one more circling as he readjusts not to hit the one that has full HP. And with that, 2 Adepts for a drone and 5 Links, as Niall will point out, has been lost. So
not too bad.
Yeah, it's aight.
Yeah, because behind this, of course, you could see that Scarlett's work count a little bit lower since she had to make so many links to just deal with those 2 Adepts. Now, interestingly, we're going to have that fun moment where the Void Ray makes his journey across the map and sees what it can get done, and it's going to find a handful of these Overlords. Scarlett, for the most part, most of her Overlords are actually very pulled back. This Void Ray didn't kill an Overlord that was sitting right outside of Neeb's main. Scarlett just didn't send an Overlord over toward Neeb's main or like over to the high ground area or anything. So Neeb does have to chase pretty far across the map to get any of those Overlord kills.
Yes, sir. 8 workers in production, 2 additional queens, 7 queens already. Have we seen a Roach Warren yet, Ravi? Because I mean, this map just reeks of Queen Walk, and we've seen Scarlett take down Neeb on this map when he is expecting the Queen Walk. Neeb will go for his third and also second Stargate right away. So there's the Roach Warren, but also a lair.
Yeah. There's a lot of different variations of the Queen Walks and stuff. Oh no, losing the Oracle, that really hurts. Whether you're up against a Queen Walk, then the Oracle has a lot of value in the stasis traps or getting vision of things as they're moving across the map to get confirmation and everything. But like, even if you're not, the Oracle just provides so much scouting information and value. And it's not like the Void Ray sitting at, 25 hit points really wants to go back in there by itself. So this is a kind of tough, like darkened spot for Neeb in terms of vision.
Yeah, and Scarlett seems to be playing an information game here, as she has not continued Queen production. And again, this has to be lingering in Neeb's mind right now, like how strong this map is for Queen Walks and how many Queen Walks we've seen from Scarlett on this map. has to be a worry for him, as these adepts will get surrounded. That is beautiful pickoffs from the Queen of Blades, but good weapons from Neeb to allow the rest of his probes to escape.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if there was, say, an Oracle there, Cats, to help protect those adepts.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of the extra value, but we'll see. Can Neeb get something done with these extra couple of Void Rays? +1 air weapon's going to get started on up. You know, Cats, before the series started, I did say there is guaranteed to be at least one very long game. And you know what? This is the one that is shaping up the most to potentially hit that niche, the most to potentially hit the point where both these players are going to go to like 30, 45, 50 minutes.
And as you say that, Scarlett fires an additional 12 workers. Neeb continues to produce air units and starts his +1, his Robo Bay, and everything seems to indicate that you will be right once again, Ravi. As a few of these workers have also fallen to the Void Ray harass, something that we see more often than not from players like Nina, but I don't really see it from most of anyone else. Kind of Void Rays going after Mineral Lines, so that's pretty cool. A nod perhaps from Neeb. And now he's gonna be able to spot the Baneling Nest on the side of Scarlett. I'm not sure that Baneling Nest is gonna see that much usage, despite his proxy, as Neil shows. So Scarlett perhaps looking for a surprise Muta switch.
Yeah. Do you think it's going to be a Muta switch, or do you think she's just going to be flooding out a bunch of Corruptors and catching Neeb by surprise with that? Because if you know that your opponent got up that many Void Rays this early on, you probably have a good sense that they are committing to the Stargates, right? I'd be pretty afraid to go for a big Muta switch against someone with 3 Stargates.
Yeah, but we have also seen no Phoenix. There's only one way to find out. I think both units will be fine. It's going to be the Muta this time around from Scarlett. And I mean, the cool thing about the Muta is they will be able to punish the Void Rays regardless, right, on defense. But if they can go on the offense, if Neeb is not expecting that, they could be deadly as well. However, I do like the Corruptors as well, right? Like, I think that was a solid choice, because if Neeb doesn't know to make more than 6 Void Rays and they get taken down, all of a sudden the Corruptors can really clean after the fact. That is to say, they can snowball to kill the carriers and maybe end the game a little bit sooner than Neeb was planning. So I think, again, both options pretty valid. Scarlett's gonna go for the Muta here, and we'll see what they're able to accomplish.
Yeah, there's 14 Mutas right now. I am actually wondering, with these Mutas just now popping, they're gonna take a little bit of time to get across the map. They're heading over to the main base, and the Void Rays are on the far right-hand side. A couple of the carriers are gonna be making their way forward, and well, shield battery overcharge, I think, should be able to save the... Oh no, the shield battery overcharge gets right-click down. Carrier number 1 is likely going to go down, but trading versus a lot of these Mutas.
Yeah, Scarlett knows that she cannot overstay her welcome against the carriers. These Mutas are more than anything else, just going to be looking for probe kills. So a good defense overall from Neeb to mitigate a lot of damage. Only 4 have gone down, probes that is. The carriers were very timely there, right? Like, because those carriers are going to make short work of the Muta. I think in retrospect, maybe Scarlett goes after probes and ignores the carriers if the situation is repeated. But seeing as the carriers just spawned, and you don't know, like the interceptor count might be super low, etc. Like, Scarlett sees an opportunity that is hard to blame her for trying to capitalize on, and does get a carrier for her troubles too.
Yeah, the carriers are just, I think they're so sturdy against the Mutas, especially before +1 air weapons is finished up, that carriers start with default 2 armor. So the Mutas that don't really do a lot of damage themselves, they really rely on things like Glaive Worm bounces and stuff, are going to struggle to do a lot of damage to those carriers. Now, thankfully for Scarlett, it's not exactly like it's very normal to invest in air armor upgrades, I guess, with those units very early on. But this Baneling and Ling run by, going to be able to hit on the right-hand side while the Mutas try and hit into the main base yet again. And while the Banelings do find some decent damage, the Voider's going to try and clean this up at the same time. The army in the main base is actually getting a ton of damage on in conjunction with the Corruptors.
Yeah, this is really, really nice from Scarlett. She will find an additional 2 carriers right here, right now. Another one as well from those Corruptors that will be easy pickings, and things are beginning to fall apart for Neeb here. I mean, the Muta,
another one.
And to another one. And to every point that you were making, I mean, are not really paying off from Scarlett, but the Corruptor follow-up has been wonderful. And now looking to focus fire onto some of those Void Rays. But I think wise to retreat is Scarlett. She found so much damage right now. She is near maxed, so I think she will still continue to flood and continue to make the life impossible for Neeb if she has it her way. So good on Neeb to identify that, drop some static defense, try to stabilize. This next minute or 2 could be game deciding.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, Neeb is is going to be struggling to hold on to his bottom right-hand base at the same time as this base. And it's already 6 base versus 4. If he goes down to 3 base, is nothing.
Done.
That's it. GG. Scarlett takes the series 4-2 and becomes the only other champion